Nightingale.
Just a little over a year ago, for the first time, I visited the tiny yet powerful and rich little island city-state that sits at the bottom of the Malay Peninsula known as Singapore. If you don't know much about Singapore, it's known for being an economic powerhouse in Southeast Asia that is exceptionally well governed, efficient, clean, safe place to live. But in return for all of this, it is also one of the strictest and most expensive cities in the world with a pretty intense work culture, so I've heard. By the way, for this whole video, I'm going to use city and country interchangeably since Singapore is kind of unique in that it's sort of both. Anyway, back to my trip. The hotel that I stayed at was in the Orchard neighborhood, or also known as Tangland. It's kind of an upscale, upper middle class, working professional neighborhood, a lot of really nice hotels and restaurants, and it's probably only about maybe, all told 15 minutes from the actual Marina Bay area at downtown. I use their metro system. It's absolutely elite. It'll take you anywhere you want to go on the island. It's easy to use, efficient, clean, it's even affordable. Personally, I'm from Los Angeles, a city that's known for having a pretty terrible light rail metro for a city of our size with our population, but I have also been to Washington, D.C., which has probably the second best metro in the United States, second to New York, which I've actually never ridden. But anyways, the metro system in Singapore destroys Los Angeles, even superior to Washington, D.C., so if you've never experienced it before, I will say you're actually in for something of a treat. So I took the metro from my hotel, or from the airport to my hotel, and then I took it to go to this park called East Coast Park, which is sort of like this nature path that takes you to the shoreline, and from there you can overlook the bay and you get sort of the gleam of the downtown skyline, as you can see right there. And being from California, one of the first things I did notice here was, even though it was about 9 p.m. at night, it was still pretty hot and humid compared to what I'm used to, off the coast of the Pacific. And that's also how it was when I was in the Philippines. So that weather is just what it is in Southeast Asia. It's hot, it's humid, it's something to get used to. Luckily, most places are air conditioned. Most of the metro stations are air conditioned. That's what you're looking at right here. This is one of their MRT stations, Mass Rapid Transit. I mean, just look at how nice this is. Look at what a impressive work it is. It looks like a mall itself. And so because of that weather, you're also going to see a lot of malls. They offer comfortable air conditioning, a place to hang out, grab some food, and then you have a lot of people here with a lot of disposable income. And so there's also a wide range of malls for a wide range of people. You have the high-end designer stuff, and then you have more of the public sellers markets as well. One thing you should know and be prepared for is that the pricing in Singapore is not going to be on par with the rest of Southeast Asia. I mean, Singapore as a country, city, economy, whatever, economically they are arguably more developed than the United States. So even though that USD might technically be stronger than the Singaporean dollar, from a technical standpoint, the pricing in Singapore is going to be very aggressive, on par, and actually even more expensive than New York City. The Economist ranks Singapore as the most expensive city in the world, tied with Zurich in Switzerland, which, if you know, is another wealth hub that's just kind of in a league of its own. So you can expect to spend top dollar if you want to get the best of the best in Singapore. But there are benefits to be had for that generally higher spend. One of those things is consistently clean and enjoyable public parks and spaces. Not to say we don't have those, but this is just on another level of, meticulously maintained and just kept very nice. This one's called Fort Canning Park. It's not far from the downtown, by their city hall, by the Marina Bay area. I'm not sure if they really call it downtown in Singapore, but that's kind of what it is to me. So from Fort Canning, which I would say is a must-see for any tourist in Singapore, I walked over to their National Gallery, which is the country's national art museum, and this is a definite must-see for any tourist in Singapore. They've got a huge number of exhibits ranging from exploring the history of the country to getting into more of like that contemporary art stuff where, you know, people who have shaped the art and thought of the whole country like on a deeper level. I learned a lot. I knew in general that they were a British colony, but you really learn in depth about the founding of the country, how that happened, why certain places are named after certain people. Like everything is named after Raffles because there was this guy named Raffles who came over from England and helped start the country. Then after World War II, they became independent and had one of the most impressive runs where they basically went from, you know, third world backwater swampy port to one of the most powerful and influential players on the international stage today. So it's pretty cool to learn about that, not gonna lie. Later that night, I went to another absolute must-see in Singapore for any tourist, and that's the Gardens by the Bay, which is this immaculate botanical garden with fountains and walkways and these giant trees that are lit up, and it looks like something from another planet. This place is pretty popular on social media like TikTok, so you may have seen it before, but if you haven't, you've seen it for the first time. It's really impressive and even kind of trippy. I happened to be there for their like national independence celebration, so I also got this free fireworks show. Drugs are highly illegal in Singapore, and I don't recommend you try to do them here, but being at the Gardens by the Bay kind of makes you feel like you're on drugs. Or maybe it makes you feel like you're at Disneyland, I don't know. It's got that trippy enchanted forest kind of vibe. But anyway, keeping with the theme of things you must do when visiting, there is a cable car located in this area here in a park called Mount Faber Park. You can see it on the screen, and you take this cable car and it takes you across the bay to this island called Sentosa, and you get beautiful, expansive city views. Obviously, this is best to do at night so you can get the city lights. And I'm not even on the cable car yet. What you're seeing here on the screen, this is me walking around Mount Faber Park. There's just a huge network of trails and walking paths, and it is highly elevated, so like it's uphill, and yes, you get tired, but then you end up on top of this hill and you get these 360-degree views of Singapore in every direction. So you can see the bay, you can see their financial district. Sometimes you don't really know what part of the city you're seeing, but still you're like, damn, this is impressive. And you'll notice if you look at these walkways, it is very impressive and very nice and very clean, just like in Fort Canning Park earlier. So Singapore definitely living up to that reputation of having like an immaculate attention to detail and keeping everything very enjoyable and nice. Like, damn, look at what they did here. This is Faber Point. This is the absolute peak of Mount Faber, where you get those actual expansive 360-degree views in every direction. And I joked earlier about not knowing exactly what part of the city you're looking at, but the joke's on me because they actually have arrows on the ground and signs pointing, telling you which part of Singapore you're looking at from this lookout point. So they thought of everything. Now these shots you're seeing here are me actually on the cable car going across the bay. And you know, I think I actually preferred Faber Point, but this is still very nice, still very romantic. On the opposite side of that, being from the United States, where we have a number of cities that are known for their danger and high crime, I wanted to see what Singapore considers to be sort of like a ghetto, avoidable, dangerous neighborhood. So I did some Googling. I found out that this neighborhood known as Geylang is considered to be sort of like the hood in Singapore, and that's mainly because, and this is weird, prostitution is legal in Singapore, but it's highly regulated and it's kept to a certain area, and that area is Geylang. So you have a couple of pimps and gangsters hanging out here, a lot of stuff you don't see in the rest of the country, like sex shops. So I was walking around just to see what the deal was and how it compares to areas of that I know, like LA, East LA, South Central, and I'll let you know, honestly, man, compared to some of the inner cities we have in America, Geylang is a literal paradise. Some of the people in South LA would probably kill to live in a neighborhood like this. Yes, I saw some pimps, I saw some gangsters, I saw some strung out people, but in general, there's just no comparison. I walked around all types of night, everything in my pocket, didn't feel unsafe for a second. So, hey man, Singapore, safe country. You guys, I hope you know what you got here. But back to the positives, and this is the final attraction I want to share with you. In the middle of the island, there is basically a rainforest that is divided into several different nature preserves. Maybe it's not technically a rainforest, but it's definitely like some kind of tropical jungle. The trail was well maintained, but they also did a good job of making it feel like they had preserved the original natural habitat. You even had monkeys running around, which I get some good shots of later. And the main attraction is this Treetop Walk bridge here. There's actually a couple of bridges where you're so high up, you're actually walking amongst the top of the trees, hence the name, and this is the kind of view that you get, and it's gorgeous, and it's I say impressive too many times in this video, but like how am I not impressed by this? So throughout this whole thing, there are like miles on miles of trails, and I did a lot. I was there for a couple hours. It's hot and humid. It is the jungle, so it was good exercise. I was sweaty as fuck. Like I said earlier, I saw these monkeys. I saw a lot of monkeys throughout this whole thing. It was pretty cool. I'd never been so close to one before. In the end, I was drenched. I had to go back and take a shower, but Treetop Walk is definitely another one of those must-do things when you're visiting in Singapore. So in totality, I spent about 5 days in Singapore. I was able to meet and hang out with a few people, though the friendships didn't quite run as deep as they did in the Philippines. Overall, it was what I expected, which is a wealthy, clean, orderly, yet strict country, basically based around capitalism, so with plenty of activities to be done and plenty of things to see. If you care to know my overall opinion and rating of Singapore, it is right here on the screen. Also, if you haven't seen my very first video, which was about my trip to the Philippines, please do check that out as well. I have more videos like this to come. I'm very new to this, so thanks for sticking with me, thanks for checking this out, and please stay tuned for the rest that is on the way.